A slip stitch in crochet is essentially the same thing as a chain stitch, only you're working it into something. A chain stitch is just yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and just keep on going. A slip stitch is the same thing, only you're working it into something else. A common use for the slip stitch is to join a round. So here we have a round that we finished, and now we need to join it, and we're going to join with a slip stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook into the top of the very first stitch of the round, right? And now I'm going to make the slip stitch by yarning over and pulling through both the stitch I inserted into and the loop that started off on my hook. And that's it. So I've made the slip stitch by making a chain through that other stitch. And I'll show you that again a little closer. All right, here's my last stitch. Here's my first stitch. I'm going to slip stitch to join. So I'm going to insert my hook into the top of the first stitch of the round, the stitch that I'm joining to. I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to pull that yarn over through everything on my hook. So through the stitch and through the loop that I started with on my hook. And that is all it takes to make the slip stitch. Now sometimes from here, maybe it says to slip stitch into the chain space. Since I'm slip stitching into the space, I don't go into a stitch, I just go into the space, yarn over, pull through everything, right? Another thing you sometimes see on it with a slip stitch is they'll tell you to slip stitch in some existing stitches, and you'll see it makes a kind of a top stitch. So what you do, if I'm slip stitching into the next stitch, is I insert my hook under both loops of the next stitch, yarn over, pull through everything. And that's a slip stitch, and I'll do that again. Insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through everything. And you can see here, I'll make a few more, and you'll really see how it makes a top stitch on the front of the fabric as opposed to on the top of the previous stitch. So you can see here's our slip stitches right here. They're on the front of the fabric. So these top two loops are from the stitches that were already there, and then these two loops here on the front of the fabric are from the slip stitches. This is a really fun thing to do after you finish something. Pull up a loop here and the slip stitch into the next stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch, you see, and make a little top stitch. And those are all just various ways to use the slip stitch, and the slip stitch is simply a chain worked through something else.